Welcome to Financial Detox. We're your hosts, Jason and Alex from IDA Wealth. Your financial journey of pursuing better and true financial peace of mind starts here. Hi, it's Jason and Alex here. Welcome to Financial Detox. Today we are talking about the plan that you think you have. You actually might not have. Alex, what do you think about this financial planning hot topic that we're on? And the reason why we're doing it is you tell our listeners what you think about it, Alex, because we've had so many discussions in the last several days and weeks with people who say, yeah, I have a plan. And then we ask them, what is that plan? And they give us what, Alex?
Well, they give us all kinds of different answers, right? I think the most fun part of meeting a new client for me, and I just heard a story from one of our aspiring younger advisors, and she had met with a client twice. And the first conversation was a very normal one where they just talked about the investments and how the person had been investing their money in CDs and whatnot. And the second meeting, which was here in our office in person, which is a really wonderful way to get to know a prospective client, she got a chance to ask the prospective client a lot more about her situation and what her goals really are and what decisions she'd already made and what decisions she thought she was going to have to make. And a plan unfolded, because that is where the real fun happens and where the real power of what we do really happens. It wasn't even about investments. It was more about what lifestyle and what she wanted to do when she reached retirement and after retirement. She's about 3 to 5 years out, by the way.
Awesome. Yeah. So what's happening though, if I'm walking on the golf course and I'm hanging out with somebody and I say, hey, what do you do? And they tell you what you do. And they ask me, what do I do? And I say, I'm a financial planner. And I say, so do you have a plan? And they say, yeah, I got a plan. And then I'll say to them, what does that mean? What does a plan mean to you? And they go, well, my guy got me some investments and, I'm going to start taking some income at some point. And, I got some stocks and I've got a few ETFs and a few mutual funds. And this gentleman, and this actual conversation happened, and I've had 100 of these, thought that was his plan. And so what we want to do today is show you what a real, interactive, integrated, living, breathing financial plan is and how it's supposed to work. We use the words a lot. All advice is not created equal, and it's not. And all financial plans are not created equal. So the fact of the matter is, right now, you probably do not have a plan. You have maybe some investments and maybe, if you're lucky, an investment strategy, but we're going to show you how you can have a plan. So here we go. With no further ado, we are diving in to a financial plan. This is a client, a sample of ours. So, every plan starts with gathering information, understanding as you see me clicking through these different sections, clients' net worth and investors, your net worth. You need to know what it is, where every dollar is. We need to know what all the income sources are. We need to know what expenses you plan to have and have today. We also need to understand taxes. We need to understand our feelings about inflation. So all kinds of different things in just the build out. And I'm going to jump because we're keeping this moving. So we go into what we call the decision center. And now we're sitting here with this client. In this particular situation, we're looking at the portfolio value over their life. So we can see that starting here in 2026, they have a lot of money, things are good, and that money continues to grow over their life. And that's wonderful. Peace of mind, okay, we've got a portfolio value that's growing. But Alex, maybe jump in and give an example of what are some of the questions a client would ask. Here we stress test it and they have 100% success ratio in this plan.
Well, sometimes too, people look at that big number at the bottom middle, 32.7 million, say, okay, I've got $5.6 million today. You're telling me I'm going to have $32 million when I die at age 95, I think is what this one probably is set up to be, which is a pretty common life expectancy number that we put in there as assumption. It seems abstract. It seems like, yeah, sure, man. I'm just trying to make sure I can retire, or I'm worried about cash flow today. Walk me through how these assumptions really work. And what's funny is sometimes I get to this point in a conversation with a client, and they've been a client for many years. And they get to this screen and they're like, all right, back up to the beginning. I don't believe it. And I'm like, this is too good to be true. I'm like, no, really, we've done such a good job together planning for these events, planning for your whole lifetime. You can be free. And that's your point, Jason, is that, if you do the time and invest the time up front into getting and this is going to sound the boring part, but it's important to do the job correctly up front, to build this plan with details, data, source, support forms. Like, make sure that you're being honest with yourself about expenses. That's always a fun part of the plan, but it's a very important lever within the plan. And over time, not that much time, but within a year, right? We get this dialed for every single client of becoming a client within a year.
Yep.
This chart becomes like sort of just like a relief to people. Like, okay, just show me that I've, not only did my bar chart go up, but also what does it mean when we stress test it, which we'll get to in a moment here. But then they start to really question it when market events happen, which haven't happened for a few years now. It's been almost 4 years since we had a real market event with 2022.
And it was short at that. It was very short.
Yeah, it was, well, not for bonds, but I think that's the point though, is that when you do have major market events or major life events that have you freaked out for good reason, you come back to this plan as your guiding force back to peace and freedom and opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. So, we talked about the big picture here. You're looking at a portfolio value. This is in future value. So that is a weird number. A lot of times people have to say, well, what is that actually going to feel like? Right? What is that going to feel like? And when you change the outcomes, you can say, if I want to look at this from a present value calculation, it's going to feel like 10 million, even though it's going to be 30. And that's the power and consequence of inflation. And so we're planning throughout all of our clients' financial plans. We're planning.
So that's like gas used to be $2 a gallon. Now it's like $6, and you're like, yeah, but inflation adjusted, it's the same, right? Or milk used to be $1 a gallon. Now it's $5 or whatever it is.
The cost of things go up over time. So in this particular client scenario, they did say, hey, we want to travel more. We want to do these other things that we were holding back because we didn't know if we had the freedom and we didn't know if we had the opportunity. And they said they had a financial plan, but their plan was actually just some mutual funds and ETFs from their local broker. And that doesn't work, right?
You just restrained yourself, didn't you?
Yes, that doesn't work. So what works is now we're saying, okay, look, you set up a plan that said, I want to go live and I want to have this minimum of 162,000. And we said, you know what? Let's stress test this and let's go. 222 is a weird number. Let's say we're going to go 220,000 a year in spending money, after tax spendable money. And now we literally model this for the client right in front of them and show them you have a 99% probability of success by increasing your income, in that case, by almost $60,000 a year for their travel and the things they wanted to do. And they still pass on with $10.1 million in present value. So
that's just their portfolio, right? If they have real estate and businesses, it's on top of that number.
Just the portfolio, net worth's on the right. So I'm going to keep clicking the button, as you can see here on this plus, and driving up their income to help them understand, hey, how much can I spend? Now we're at $250,000 and we still haven't broke the bank. We're at a 99% success ratio. This, I don't want to emphasize the complication and the sophistication behind this. This is just one part of planning. There may be a decision around Roth conversions. There may be a decision around buying a specific second home. There may be a specific decision around helping a child or giving to a family foundation or a charity. But when you look at this here, now I got clear up to $300,000 a year, 97% probability of success. But I think the real part, Alex, that comes to fruition for our listeners and our clients and the people who engage in real financial planning is when you start to look at literally the detailed analysis of every dollar in and out. This is not buy some mutual funds and ETFs from your broker and hope things work out. This is literally analyzing every inflow, every planned distribution, other inflows, expenses, including taxes, every dollar in and out of your life. And now you're not only looking at today with a real financial plan, cash flow based, full analysis, but you're looking forward throughout your whole life. And the result of that is you start to see, wow, we are stress testing for volatility, historic and future volatility. And we're trying to analyze all potential outcomes. And the details are so legit that now you can start to be set free to take the opportunity and the freedoms that your resources can create and put those in practice in your life.
You know what I like about it too? It was kind of an aha moment when we had our client advisory board final event of this recent board a couple weeks ago. Is we asked them, I don't know if you remember, Jason, the very first meeting we had about a year ago, we asked them, where do you go for advice when you don't come to us? Be honest. We know you have other places you get information. It's okay. And they were very honest. And they told us, well, the news, from friends, from neighbors, from AI, right? And then we said, well, how do you make a decision on what to do besides coming to us, of course, which is a self-serving question, but we really wanted to find that. And what they ended up saying was that it's really beneficial to have several sources of information when you're trying to answer a question about your financial journey, your financial plan, your investments. But it's important. It's like a trust but verify. They said we basically do all that to then come back and test it against our plan with you. And that was a really awesome outcome because it is important to understand there's a lot of information out there. Coming back to this as your source of truth on how to make these decisions. And you do want to stress test this plan with information from the outside of the plan, which is so good for us, Jason, when you think about our advisors working with the hundreds and hundreds of clients you work with on a monthly and semi-monthly basis. It's awesome because every time we get a challenging question, it just makes it that much stronger for every other client of the firm, right?
It really does. So, Alex, I think that what this ends up doing is giving people the opportunity to see their life and the financial choices in front of them laid out in total detail in an interactive fashion. And when you do that and you're stress testing, not only for today, but for tomorrow's volatility, 3 years, 10 years, and 20 years out, you now are set free so that you can take the opportunities and use the resources that you have to go maximize your life and do the best you can. And I think the encapsulating statement is what you think is a plan that you have probably isn't the plan that you could and or should have when you get into this kind of detail. It's a real opportunity to create financial peace of mind. And we hope you will take us up and on this opportunity to see what this looks like for you with your personal information in it, get financially detoxified, and get a real financial plan. Thanks for tuning in. As always, it's Jason Labrum with Financial Detox and Alex Klingon-Smith. We'll catch you on the next show.